For those that don't know me, I'm Lizzie. So I'm the CE of New Zealand Pony Club. So as Briley said, I think it's a great suggestion to introduce yourself and where you're from.
Oh, I'll go first and then I'll call out names, how my screen works. That'll be great. I'm Briley, No Children in Pony Club now, but Hawke's Bay secretary from Flaxmere through Hiratonga to Hawke's Bay. And Lisa? Come back to Lisa.
Sorry, did I turn it on again?
Yes.
Ah, cool. Thanks. My name's Lisa. I'm president of Otane Pony Club, and I've got one D certificate rider in the Pony Club.
Sarah P.
Hi, I'm Sarah, Otane Pony Club, one child at Otane.
Sue.
Kia ora, Sue Wilson. I'm DC of Wairoa Pony Club.
Wendy L.
I'm treasurer of the Gisborne Pony Club, and I think that's a grandchild that goes to Royal Pony Club.
Cherie.
Hi, I am Cherie. I am Otane Pony Club. Yeah.
Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen. I have my daughter is doing a C+ from Flaxmere Pony Club.
Helen's a jack of all trades at the moment.
Okay.
And Debbie.
Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Morakakaho Pony Club, and I have one rider.
Kim, sorry.
Hi, I'm
Riley.
I'm from Poketap.
Sorry, Kim.
Kim Matches. Go.
All good.
Go
No children at Pony Club now. In the area treasurer currently.
And Sarah is next. Bryant.
Hi, I'm Sarah Bryant. I'm the Vice President of the Gisborne Pony Club, and I've got two girls currently at Pony Club.
Mr. Merritt.
Tony Merritt, Havelock North Pony Club, Hiratonga Pony Club DC. Emily drifting in and out of Pony Club when she's not travelling overseas.
Kathy.
Hi, Kathy Ford, Havelock North Pony Club, Hiratonga, and area chair at this point in time, and looks like I might have a Grandy and Pony Club soon, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah, cool.
Oh,
Meg.
got the pony.
Yeah.
Meg Becker, no children, and head coach of Hiratonga Pony Club.
Kimball.
Hi there, I'm from Flaxmere Pony Club, and I have one rider. Thanks.
Gretchen.
Hi, I'm Gretchen King, DC of CHB Pony Club, and we've got two daughters at Pony Club.
Let's change the screen. We've got Ingrid.
Hi, I'm Ingrid. I'm the head instructor at Morakakaho, and my middle daughter is at Pony Club.
Right, and Sarah Collins. On mute. You're on mute, Sarah.
She just texted me and I think her computer's updating.
Okay. So Sarah Collins, remind me, is she president?
I think she's head coach of Paraiate Puketapu.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yep. Thanks, Sarah.
And
Lou?
two children.
Oh, two children, yeah. Pony Club.
Yep, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Cool, yep, two children, Head coach at Karate Puketapu.
Thank you. Lou.
Hi, Lou White. I've got 3 children at Otani Pony Club.
And Tracy. It's frozen.
I can jump in and just tell you, Tracy is with Warra Pony Club. She is the president, and she has one child who is a member.
Thank you, Sue. All right.
Okay, well, thanks everyone for taking time out of your busy lives to spend more time in Pony Club for this meeting. Can everyone see the screen? It should be blue.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, I just want to also congratulate you. As an area, you are one of the areas that have been our top engager in coming to our meetings, in our pre-webinar meetings, with 89% of your clubs or branches engaged and came along. So thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant. So thank you. I'm just going to get this start working. So basically what is on tonight is the purpose is to share the recap of the proposed constitution, and also alongside the proposed constitution, we took the opportunity for a restructure. So we're just going to recap on both of those, because of course the restructure and the proposed constitution do go hand in hand, but they can also not be hand in hand, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. We want to share the process with you and the timeline for change. And the timeline is the timeline for both the new incorporated societies constitution and if we were redoing our structure. And we also want to look specifically at what this would look like for you guys as an area under a proposed restructure. So we really want to reiterate that we are in the consultation phase and that we want feedback from all our clubs, all our branches, all our members and our areas, because you are the grassroots, you are the backbone of Pony Club. And I've actually been where you are as a mum on a committee, as a president of a branch, as a DC, and actually I had the pleasure of going to Show Hunter Champs as a mum when Meg went in the same team. And she even got to instruct my son, the terror of Pony Club, who should turn around and he'd gone. So thanks, Meg, for putting up with it. So
He was one of my favourites.
he just wasn't there. The pony stayed. Brilliant pony. So we're definitely in the consultation phase, and this phase is we really need your feedback to decide, are we on the right track with the proposed restructure, and if we do the restructure and it's favourable, the constitution that we're putting in front of you. Your feedback will shape our final version, and if it's decided it is not what we want, we will shape a constitution based on our current structure. That is how open and transparent this is. So this is kind of why it's quite important. And the final vote of any constitution will take place at the National AGM in August in Christchurch. And if you're not attending that, you will be able to do electronic voting. So that is a little bit of the where we are with consultation. Are there any questions on that? I will have more details, especially on timeline coming up. So yeah, but please jump in anytime. No. So our rationale and purpose of these area focus meetings is when Kelly and I were working on the presentations of the webinars, we felt that the concept was quite abstract, and we both felt that we really needed to show you what it could look like, because it's really difficult to vote or imagine what we're thinking when it feels so conceptual. And the board, and not so much myself, they have been living the Constitution update as soon as they got the templates from Sports NZ. being a Sports NZ under their umbrella and getting funding from them, we had to wait for what they provided to us. So they have been working behind the scenes. So this session is designed to help clubs, branches and areas understand what the changes might mean if we do go for the proposed restructure and remove one of the administrative layers of Pony Club. And in that, you'd be looking at the day-to-day operations, the decision-making authorities such as votings, your event coordination and delivery, your communication and reporting lines, and how we, NZPCA, would support our volunteers and members, and how you'd support your volunteers and members as well. So that's a little bit of what we hope to gain out of this session tonight. So as we said, why are we doing this? So sorry, one of my phones is beeping. I'll just turn it off. So why are we doing this now? So because we had to, because of the Incorporated Act of 2022, change our constitutions. It was something we had to do, and it wasn't a small change. That's why there is no marked up version of what we had previously to what we're doing now, because the changes were so big. They didn't just correspond nicely from one document to the new document. That the board decided at the same time, let's revisit something that people say to us all the time. Let's revisit the idea of removing a layer from Pony Club. So they can be completely separate. We'll be honest, we could do the Constitution update and then come back to this and do this separately. But we thought, well, if we're going to do a whole restructure of Pony Club, we'd need to update all those constitutions. So to do it hand in hand. So the Constitution, the NZPCA Constitution, is basically the governing document for the whole organisation. So everything that we do as NZPCA falls out of that document. So it's the purpose of Pony Club, the member structure of Pony Club, the things that don't change. The things that do change, like the exhaustive list and often outdated list of membership regulations, certificate regulations, event regulations, they're to the side and they get updated usually annually, where the Constitution doesn't change that often. There may be one or two remits in an AGM and they get changed like that, but basically it's a very static, I assume, document. That is what we are governed by. So in that document, it outlines the procedures and powers, it outlines the membership types, and it's a draft for discussion. And even if we didn't do the structure rechange, that would also still be the case. This constitution is not for areas, clubs and branches, because first of all, we've got to get the national organisation's constitution agreed to, and then out of that falls the expectations and constitutions for our areas, clubs or branches, or whatever the restructured two layers would be, 2 or 3 layers. As I said, it's not the membership regulations and rules. It's not the events like Champs Week and how that runs. But can I please state, we have no plans that those events will not continue. We still plan Eventing Champs. You guys are actually on for hosting next year. And we still plan zone games and we still plan Champs Weeks. We're asked every year at our area forums in February and our area forums in August, July, August, to look at the events. So we are doing a massive review of events, but they will continue. Absolutely 100% continue. Were there any questions about that?
No, just sort of waiting to see how it looks as to my questions of how would these events look at, be, you know, that type of thing.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
So basically, this is a really important timeline, and it's probably if you were one of the 89 or the representatives that came to our webinar introductions. Everything's the same apart from at the tops now we've got little sub notes on here. So basically in May it's the area focused webinars and begin the discussion of what would areas look like, the layers of Pony Club, if we were going for a 3-layer Pony Club. And this is full consultation by NZPCA. We need from all of you by the 5th of June, so this is why we're focusing on this now, are we on the right track? What is the feedback telling us? Does the membership support a 3-layer organisation? If the membership doesn't support a 3-layer organisation, we need to know, because at the 5th of June board meeting, the board are going to use the exit surveys of all the members, because it's really hard just getting the feedback of clubs and areas. We need all members because, of course, our members from branches feed into clubs, feed into areas. We want everyone's feedback that are we on the right track? Because at that 5th of June meeting, the board are either going to decide to go, okay, yep, people are behind the 3 layers, and that is where we'll continue with this constitution, or no, they don't. They want to stick with the previous 4 layers traditionally like we've got currently, which always wasn't the traditional way, by the way, and we'll stick with areas, clubs without branches, and branches. And that 5th of June meeting will determine which way, because in that 1 month, those board members, which they can do, need to get the finalised constitution with the correct structure out to you guys to have in your discussions for how you vote at the AGM in August. Now, July is always the time, or 30 days before, is always the time that remits, items of business, who's standing for president, who's standing for board come out. So this is no different than a normal deadline, this July 1st, 2nd, 3rd. It's got to be by the 3rd. So you will get all the AGM information by then. So that is why for us, this is really important, because we need that feedback to say, yep, we kind of understand what you're doing and we support it, or no, we don't. No matter what, at the 3rd of August, you'll be presented with a constitution. If we didn't get that feedback and we presented a structure that's not supported, we would be struggling, because our constitution must be voted in, and the AGM is an in-person meeting. We could have an SGM further on, but then everything would move out, and we feel that the 5th of April would be hard to get to. But currently, we believe with our network of what we've got that we can get from where we are now in May to the 5th of April deadline and support you in adopting your new constitution, no matter what the layer is.
So
Okay.
Lizzie, there are 2 different things. There's the constitution that we're working through, and the layers of Pony Club. I can understand why we're looking at this, because we are struggling to get office holders within our different clubs and branches and organisations. But it will affect Heretaunga Pony Club greatly if that level is dissolved and all of the branches become clubs. So Heretaunga, we're holding on to Heretaunga because, of course, it was the first pony club in the country. And the clusters, that's what you're calling areas, will turn into a cluster.
I've got probably more details and slides to come that might make that slightly clearer.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, and we admit we came up with a name. We needed a name when we talked about it, and in reflection we would have done things differently. And we came up with cluster because it was an area. We wanted to distinguish that it's bad enough that we're calling branches clubs, and people are like, oh, they can't get their head around that. But where the concept of you're going to your pony club remains. So But we've got modelling coming up of what it could look like, and I completely understand the historical reasoning, being the first pony club. But in August, so we vote on whatever constitution it is, being a restructure or the current structure. But that's why that 5th of June, once again, is so important. We will submit it, and then straight away we will have the intermediate layer, the admin layer, and the club constitutions ready to go. Intermediate layers or club layer or branch layer ready to go. And then you will have your meetings, you will approve them. Once you've approved them, there is one thing here that must happen. They must come to the NZPCA to be checked, because no one's constitution can be changed from the template unless the approval of the NZPCA board. So some of you in the past, or maybe even now, have potentially had reductions in quorums. A reduction in quorum is constitutionally something that needs to be changed, and you can only get approval from the board to change that. But you can't go and add sub clauses like I'm going to give all my money to the petting zoo down the road once if we wound up. So they must all be checked. We trust you, but we must check them. That is something we must do as a national organisation. If we were looking at a structural change, come September, we'd have support documents in place for those that are changing. If you're not changing, there would be nothing to do. They'd just carry on. And if there were changes, it has been proposed that we have like a nationwide change date or Gypsy Day, like farmers do. Are there any questions on the timeline?
I know you've got to put a timeline down to get people into action. Is the end of May giving us enough time to sort through all this? Because it's quite a minefield of stuff, isn't it?
So
The
we're only
Incorporated
wanting.
Societies Act, Tony. Yeah. The
Oh,
Incorporated
you mean
Societies Act.
this May here, the consultation?
Yeah, the consultation,
Yeah,
which is
well, so all of you at the end of this, I'm going to link in the survey link. I'm going to link it into the minutes of your meeting. And what you need to do for me is go with your gut feeling. You don't need to go and discuss what you're thinking. I need your feelings. So I need to know what each of you is thinking. Do you support, not support, not support? And what it will do is give us a collection of members' views. So that will tell us how we're going. So that's what we.
So
that's
not
what we
as
need
the
from you.
area. We do it
No.
individually.
Individually. So this survey feedback is an individual, and you don't have to do it tonight. You can come on for the rest of the month and do that. But our consultation feedback will be closing in time for the 5th of June meeting. And it's a survey, so the results are all there. It will tell me the percentage of support from our members, because remember, our members at our clubs, our branches, get to influence how they say to their club, we want you to vote yes or no. The club then influences the area. We want you to vote yes or no. So that is why we're getting feedback from them, because our communications out there, I have to be honest, are only as good as the emails listed on the database. So that's also a real big plug. Please update your databases. I often get emails back going, oh, I never got that. You go to someone, you say, I sent it to xxx@hotmail.com. I don't check that. It's like, but that's what you've listed. And also I often get ones from people going, I'm not the secretary of that club. And it's like, well, you're listed as the secretary. So please, that's the most important. Our communication relies on accurate information. So you've got your hand up.
Oh yeah, I just want to just raise a flag that, as you know, Wairau Pony Club is registered with Charity Services, and so we have an extra layer with our constitutional issue once that's done. So timing wise, given that we will have to get lawyers and that involved, it doesn't leave us a huge amount of time.
So if you directly work with, I can put you in touch. You can email me, and you and our one other body that are also charities, so it's only the two of you. You can work directly with our board member / lawyer who's very aware of your charitable status.
Wonderful, thank you, because
Yeah.
I've already been and talked to our local lawyer
Yep, there's
who
only
left me feeling
two of you.
left me feeling a little bit cold.
Well,
So
there's only the two of you, so we're very aware of you. So
okay,
if
thank you.
you go and I'll put you in touch with that person.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, and it seriously depends on what people decide about reducing a layer or continuing as we are. So as you all know, so I'm getting towards the exciting stuff. This is how Pony Club currently looks. So we've got our 15 areas, used to be 16. I'm very aware that Gisborne Wairoa used to be an area. I'm from the King Country, so I was from the King Country. So understand that. 87 branches and 87 clubs and 138 branches. And of course, this is where it gets a little bit confusing because we have NZPCA, our areas, we have our clubs with our branches underneath, and then we have those clubs with no branches. And you have a mix in the Hawke's Bay. Just quite a nice visual to see how we look as an area, the geographical spread. Okay, before we go on to the modelling, with the restructure in mind, we do not believe that clubs will lose identity. We know that you guys are historic, and I'm sure you could work through a way of retaining your traditions, your uniforms, and even your names. Like I know, and I have to get from you guys later what actually is the official name of the merged club because it's got two different things. So I'll get that in a minute. But I know that Wanganui Petrie, when they merged, Petrie did not want to lose their name. So they became Wanganui Petrie. I've got clubs out there who have got such long names that to retain all of their identities, or else when clubs have merged, like the likes of Monganui, it was a merger of Kaitaia and Awanui. Or South Otago, when it merged, the club, South Otago, stayed the club, and the three venues, Clutha, Awaka and Clinton, all became venues. So we'll work with you if you decide to go down that road. Is this about closing clubs or reducing events? No. It's about focusing on the club where the rider spends the majority of their pony club journey. And we really want to improve the support and consistency that you get at that level. But saying on that, if there's clubs that are non-constitutional, as in they have got less than 15 members, they unfortunately won't be able to become reincorporated because one of the things in the Constitution is the number of membership. It will be, currently it says there's 15 members, of which 8 must be adults. It's inferred that the others have to be youth. But because it's not written clearly, you could have 15 adults and be classified as a pony club. In the new Constitution, that will clearly state that instead of how many have to be, it will state how many have to be adults and how many need to be youth members under the age of 25, just because we need to retain what Pony Club is. What happens to our assets? No matter what, your assets remain within your areas and clubs. So even if you a branch closed, they retain in your area. The branch gets a say, the board approves. Unfortunately, it is not constitutional to go and say, no matter what the relationships or the history, oh, we're going to give our resources, our money to the AMP. Unfortunately, in the Constitution, the resources state really clearly they must stay in New Zealand Pony Club. So as much as you'd like to go and donate to the Ronald McDonald House or to the Westpac helicopter, unfortunately you can't, and that won't be approved. Will you be able to host events? Absolutely. We don't see that the everyday running of a club and the intermediate layer would change and they'd remain the same. Events, camps and everything you do should not be affected if we removed a layer. we know that some of the jobs that one layer may do might get pushed up, or there might be some jobs that are doubled up. And I'm sure we can talk to some of the clubs here that may have merged in the past. Why now? Also, we decided now because people suggested it, and Kathy probably remembers this in 2011, and probably other ones out there, when New Zealand Pony Club changed from the Committee of Management and went to a board. At the same time, they tried to remove clubs, and it didn't go down well. And so they said, okay, we tried, we listened, we tried, it didn't go down well, we'll carry on and we'll do the board instead, and we'll park the clubs and someone will come back and pick it up later. And people have kept on coming to us and said, can you look at that again? Can you look at that again? We're aware that people like to do surveys when they're unhappy. So unfortunately, when we do surveys, often we get surveys with, oh, there's too much volunteer time, not enough help, volunteer burnout, too many layers. So we do get that feedback. We also get it spoken to us. So we thought, why not? Why not be, in a way, brave and present this again? And as I said, this is absolute constitution. If you guys all said to us, what are you doing? This is ridiculous. We won't be carrying on and presenting removing a layer from Pony Club. So now that we go and start looking at your area, some things to think about. And maybe it won't be relevant to you, but it's been really relevant to Franklin, Thames Valley, Auckland, Waitemata, Rodney, slightly Northland, they're the ones I've done so far. Are the area boundaries still what they need to be today? So in Auckland and between Auckland and Franklin, Thames Valley, Ardmore is in Franklin, Thames Valley. Down the same road, 5 minutes away, is Papatoetoe in Auckland. So it's those kind of conversations they've been having. We are also aware that there are new fancy roads out there. So where you might have had to go 3 to 4 hours in the past, now it's an hour's drive. I don't know your area well at all. So instead of me sitting there and going, oh, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, this is why we're doing this with you, and going, this would work, this wouldn't work. If I live in Katikati, it's 7 k's away, but apparently Te Araha is only 5 k's away. There's just this big hill in the middle called the Kaimai Ranges. So, you know, it's all of those considerations. Also, like new roads, urbanisation, all of those things. Is your club and branch youth focused and providing for the purpose of Pony Club? I really hope it is, but that has been a big question, especially we've got some adult focused clubs, and I haven't got any in this meeting, but I have got some clubs, unfortunately, that have got 20 adult members and not one child, not one youth member. Does my branch or club have enough members to operate? And is my branch or club in the right area? Is it time to move to a different area? We've had some really interesting conversations about some areas stretching, merging, dividing. So really, really cool ideas. One thing before I go on is when we have no plans to say your riders will not be riding under the Hawke's Bay banner. So unless you made a completely new area, like in case we had, instead of King Country, we had Central Plateau. But no matter what, when we have events, those riders will still be riding for Hawke's Bay, the area that they live in. So for ESNZ, I'm riding in Bay of Plenty. Okay. So I'm sure you all do this. This is the purpose of pony clubs, and this will be in all constitutions, no matter what the structure looks like. But it really clearly determines what we're here for. The driving focus of Pony Club, the where we begin. It focuses on the Pony Club competitions, the activities of Pony Club, the coaches, the coaching. If there's anything you think we've missed, please let us know. so we can add it in there. It's why we're here. I'll carry on because I'm going to send you your slides anyway. So this is our proposed structural change of Pony Club. So if we were looking at a structural change, one area that we definitely would have is the national layer, where we set the vision, the values and the strategy for pony clubs across New Zealand. It ensures the consistency in standards, oversees the national competitions, manages the national partnerships and maintains the policies and frameworks, including the safety, education and certificate pathways for all our members. That's inclusive of our coaches. We also know that the one area that we definitely must keep is that club layer, and that is the foundation of the Riders Pony Club experience. That is where the rider spends their time. They go to Pony Club, a bit like the cricket club or the rugby club. That is where they receive their instruction, they work towards their certificates and they build their community. The club focuses on the regular rallies, the coaching and developing safe and capable riders, volunteers, horses and coaches. Need to add that there. So our proposal, and this would be where you decide, is one administrative layer. So in the past we've called that clusters. It could easily be retained and be your area. Your area could be the administrative layer. So this is the governance and oversight. It acts as the intermediary between the clubs and the national body. It's supporting the implementation of the national policy. It's the development and support. So it facilitates the extension of riders beyond the club environment, including the area champs, or whatever you're going to have, the training camps, your talent pathways and your inter-club events. It's the resource sharing, coordinates funding applications in part, ownership of shared resources across multiple clubs. Of course, you can also do your own funding applications. It's the best practice forums, offering a platform for committee members to share governance and operational knowledge to strengthen the club administration. So that would be under a 3-tiered system. Okay, so the Hawke's Bay, here you are. It was really tricky trying to fit you in on a Google map that didn't include like all of Bay of Plenty. So here you are currently. These are your numbers as of today. So from the other meeting, someone said, oh, I'd really love to see what the adults are, what the under 25s are, and what the horse masters, if you've got, and the totals, instead of having them up here. So currently you're a mix. You have 4 clubs without branches, and then you have Hiratonga, our historic club, with the 5 branches underneath. Now, is there anyone from Puketapu Paraiti here?
Yes,
Sorry,
Sarah is.
So Sarah, is that what your actual name is now? Because I've got 2 different things written down in 2 different places.
I'm just hoping I've unmiked myself. We're Paraiti Puketapu.
Okay, good to know that. So
We went
I will go-
alphabetical, and
Okay.
our expert told us that was probably the best way to go. And
Okay, I will
Puketapu-
change this.
Yeah, Puketapu didn't want to lose their name because of the historical significance of that, and of course we didn't want Paraiti, so it's quite long, but it's Paraiti Puketapu.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and a bit like Wanganui Petrie didn't want to lose their identity. And I actually drove past what I think it was Puketapu the other day with Michelle. Okay, so that's how you're currently structured. I hope there's no surprises on your numbers there. So you're all healthy and you could all continue with those numbers. Oh, sorry, these will also, these aren't as of today. These are as the date we took them for the annual report. Because I know that last year we had an issue.
So they'll be our voting numbers, Lizzie.
They are your voting numbers are your under 25 numbers.
Thank you very much.
Your under 25 numbers, not your adults, not your horse masters. So Hiratonga, you will add those all together and that's yours. Now, voting rights is only 3. In the new constitution, no matter what we are doing, we will be looking at a slightly different, potentially a slightly different, more electoral college voting system. So that might be 1 vote for every 10 members with a maximum cap, riding members, of course, because we've got some pony clubs that actually have 100 riding members and they can only get 3 votes. So they're kind of like, it's not proportionate, but that will come out in the finalised constitution and it will definitely be fair. Okay, now this section, I'm just going to go back one. Oh gosh, it's not going back. Is just me playing. It's all examples. It's just me putting things out there. If I've merged you or I've done something to you, it's only to show. So it's only for an example. I'm just going to put that out there. Okay, so items to ponder. So, you know, you could ponder, firstly, you could actually go, we actually really like Hawke's Bay area. We want to retain Hawke's Bay area as our administrative layer. But that actually has implications of its own because then you've only got 1 layer underneath. So if your Hawke's Bay layer is your administrative layer, then basically all of your branches, your clubs stay like they were. So Central, Hawke's Bay, Dannevirke, Wairoa and Gisborne would stay where they are. But the Hiratonga branches could all become clubs in their own rights. So that would be a retaining of 2 layers. I'm going to walk through all of them and then because you might have different ideas as well. So this is if you retained area as that second administrative layer. Another option is that you could retain the area as the second layer, but what you could do is retain Hiratonga, and for this, sorry, Flaxmere and Havelock, I pulled you out to the side, but there's nothing stopping you retaining it here. Hiratonga is the club, but Flaxmere, Havelock, Marae, Kākaho, Otani, Paraiti, Puketapu would be venues / branches. So that would be...
wouldn't change much if we did it that way.
You wouldn't have incorporated societies, so each of these would not have a committee or an incorporated society. Hiratonga would be the incorporated societies, and these would just be one club, one committee, but ultimately different venues. You could retain, as long as your council, because councils around the country are completely different. Trust me, I was in Auckland City last night's meeting and I'm pleased I'm not with their council. They have to be incorporated society to keep their leases for their lands, but your council, a bit like the council in Northland might go, no, we're happy for you to be the Otani venue of the Hiratonga Pony Club. So that would be an option. And so, oh gosh, sorry. You know, so if you wanted that, you could still basically retain the look of the dark blue up here, but these would just be venues. They would be clubs. That would be your administrative, and that would be NZPCA. So lots to think about if you wanted to retain the second layer.
Yeah, because can I just interject there? Because for Paraiti Puketapu with the council, the legal position that we found out about is if we leave that venue, we're effectively abandoning that lease and we would never get it back again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Hiratonga is the affiliate to the equestrian park. There's a whole lot of complications for each of them, I guess.
Yeah. We've got some, you might be aware of Battle Hill. So I don't know how the equestrian park runs for you guys, but I'm going to give you a bit of history on Battle Hill. So we only found out at the area forum that Battle Hill is affiliated to New Zealand Pony Club and has been since 2011. They have been paying a yearly fee because our accountant just keeps on sending them the bill. Basically, because they own the cross country course, I think the equestrian park is probably different, but because they own the cross country course at Battle Hill and the assets of Battle Hill, they set up a separate incorporated society of which the members are the pony clubs that feed into Battle Hill. So that's how they've got around that aspect for Battle Hill. But because you're an equestrian park, it's potentially different. So I know that in Tauranga, McLaren's Falls, the cross country course, it's council land, but it's owned, the cross country course is owned by Tauranga. They could make McLaren's Falls an incorporated society of which the Tauranga current branches are all members of. So yeah, you've got lots to consider there.
Can you just go back one slide again? Thanks, Lizzie.
Yep. You could also keep, you could have Hiratonga still being the overseeing body, but they just wouldn't have an incorporated society. Or you could put Hiratonga Flaxmere, Hiratonga, or I don't know how you do it, but that's if you wanted to retain Hawke's Bay as your area, as that administrative layer. I've got some other slides with other scenarios, and then we'll can have a little kind of discuss. There is also the option, and this is what I did here. There's also the other option that Hiratonga, this is where the club kind of hub idea comes in. So you would no longer have Hawke's Bay as an area as that administrative layer, remembering that your riders always are riding for the Hawke's Bay because that's where they're based, that's where their location is, that's where they're from. Hiratonga's in the Hawke's Bay, where you'd have NZPCA, Hiratonga, with its 5 clubs under there, retaining that historical structure and big enough to be a cluster. And then you could either have one other cluster, I don't know what the name is, or you could divide those other 2 and be more location based. So you've got your you've got your Wairoa and Gisborne, but you wouldn't be an area again, but I guess it would be slightly like your area, but your numbers actually are really positive. And then you've got your south of Hiratonga, I don't know what to call you, north, south, east, central, I don't know, of that. So that was another scenario that I was just, presenting to you. If you weren't having your area as the second layer and you wanted to keep that intimate, that layer of Hiratonga and something else, you could do that.
So who chooses? So
You
if we
do.
went back, I do, and everyone else does it, and we go, like, I put my opinion in whether I want area or how I want it, or how do we?
So we don't need to know absolutely what you want to look like this week, tomorrow, the next month. We need to know that, and that working on that in August, September, because if you're voting for a structure change and being 3 structures, 3 layers, and removing a layer, you've kind of got to have an idea of what it could fit for you guys. And, some of you would be strong advocates to go, actually, we want to retain our area, and then we want to all become clubs because that's what Central Hawke's Bay, Dannevirke, Wairoa and Gisborne are currently used to. But that you could say, actually, we're going to be like that, and we're going to have Hiratonga still being our historic club, but we're going to have them as venues, but still have Hawke's Bay. Or you have the option of going, actually, how different would it look instead of having Hawke's Bay as the area, having Hiratonga as that administrative layer for Hiratonga, basically not on their own, because, you're still going to talk to people, but being over here, and then having another cluster or hub being the other 4 on this side. So basically a bit of a divide in the middle, bit of a small, not a divide as in a wall, that's probably the wrong word, but having a different administrative layer there. You was going to say to me, but how would we run area trials? How are we going to select riders for teams? I'm one step ahead of you. For teams, let's be honest. If we carry on with teams events the way they are currently going, we will not have eventing champs. We will not have champs weeks. If we are only focusing on teams and getting a full team, we're actually potentially putting barriers in place. If we actually look at our riders who have got their NQSs and go, you've got your NQS, so 1, you're up to standard. 2, you're safe because you've got your NQS. We have the resources, or even if you don't have the resources, but yes, we support you. Go to Champs Week, go to Eventing Champs, go and be part of it. Now, I went to Pony Club Champs for King Country. We didn't have a full team. We only had 3. I don't sit here today and go, oh, we only had 3. We weren't actually a team. We all rode as individuals. I went. It was my highest achievement. Loved it. So, you know, that thinking is if we're only sending teams, if we only stick to that, these events can't survive. But for that rider who might only go as an individual, that might be their highlight. Waitemata Rodney this year sent 1 rider, DC, down to Eventing Champs. She won.
Oh, she won?
She won.
Wow.
She's never going to sit there and go, oh, I didn't go as a team.
Yeah.
Also, King Country this year to Champs Week, they sent 1 individual rider. She won the junior dressage. She's not going to sit there and go, oh, I didn't go for a team. So we need to get some restructuring and to continue our sport, to grow it, to get the riders there, we need to send them. If you are lucky enough to send enough riders, let's start thinking maybe a bit like secondary schools, and their results on that day is the team result that they get. So say with badminton, if we put a team in, I'm sure we probably would have had Janelle, Tim and Carolyn, maybe. I'm just predicting. They didn't do very well. The girl Mason, she did great, Tim did great, and someone else would take the top 3, and that would be the scores for that team. That is just some of the thinking that people have been saying to us. Think differently, think differently. But, you know, teams is not, I know it's part of this conversation, and it's good to think about it, but we do need to change what we're doing or else our events will not survive.
Agree with that.
My child's been to Champs Week as an individual for Hawke's Bay. She loved it. And without the team pressure, it was actually better for her.
Yeah. I've heard of draft riders being drafted in to their team. They didn't get into their team and ending up in the winning team as well. It goes down really well. It goes down really well. You know, and then you say, okay, you are hosting Eventing Champs, but we're also looking at that. Sorry, the feedback's coming. I only had the TNE meeting. Oh, was that Friday night? I don't know. But, you know, we also got to think differently of how we actually host our events. We do, because otherwise we will not survive. But I must say, Springston Trophy, this is incredible. Springston Trophy is run by 1 branch each year. And they, you know, when you think about it, running events, if you're that branch or that club running it, you definitely get it done. You definitely do. I know that you guys can do it. So people do say, oh, what about teams? What about events? You don't actually need to be an incorporated society to put a team together. You don't actually need to have an event committee being an incorporated society to run an event. To have money and to get funding applications, but you could go through your cluster, or you could go through your club or something if you needed to.
So in terms, Lizzie, of us hosting Champs next year, so obviously we will probably still be continuing how we are as a Hawke's Bay area at present. But if we were to split, say, look at your top graph there, NZPCA, you got Clubs Hub, then Hiratonga. Who's going to be responsible for running Hawke's Bay Champs?
Well, for next year, you as a collective area are still going to be running it.
Yeah,
because
okay,
it's
so maybe the next rotation when it comes around, just thinking in the future.
The next rotation is Franklin Thames Valley, and they're aware of this and going, actually, our cluster could run it if they're a cluster, or our area will run it. I've been lucky enough to be part of 2 champs now, Melbourne, Nelson, West Coast. And, you know, there are, as long as you can call out for people to help support it, but the main workers of that committee were usually of where it was being held. I'm not saying that's definite, but they were, you know, the ones that were the main people on the ground. It didn't matter where they came from. They had to all come together. The only thing that they needed for to be an incorporated society was to pay the bills or to wear the bank account. So there would be nothing stopping you going, actually, we're all going to run it together as an area, but we're going to use Cluster B's bank account, or we're going to use Hiratonga's bank account for this, and just have some kind of memorandum of understanding of all the money comes into one and it will be split 3 ways or something like that. I'm sure there'd be ways of how it would work if you've gone to this cluster model. If you, of course, were in this model with the Hawke's Bay there, you just can continue as you are. But I'm sure we could find ways of making this work, considering Springston Trophy is bigger than Eventing Champs, and that was run by one club that was probably the size of Flaxmere last year.
I guess I'm just concerned after the zone games sort of debacle a little bit, where some clubs or some clusters or hubs might go, oh no, we're not under Hawke's Bay umbrella anymore, so I don't need to do anything.
So with the zone games, if there was definitely a move away from the areas like Hawke's Bay and it went to this, it might come down to, like we do with Champs Week, who would like to host it. So we don't force it upon the Champs Week to say who's hosting it. It's up to the group going, we'll host it. And so that it's they know they're going to be supported. They know they're going to get the opportunity to hold a side event using our judges, using our course designers, using potentially the medics and everything, usually the medics. So it's a chance for them to run an event on the side and actually earn some money, but supported. So, you know, lots of people put their hands up for that type of thing. Sarah.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to what you're saying about how the champs would be run and how you're thinking about differently. Would that mean, say, for us coming from Gisborne, we could send 3 individual riders from our area, but they don't actually have to go down and trial to be part of a team's event that comes under the Hawke's Bay umbrella then? So
okay, Yep, so that's absolutely correct. And I'm not saying it's a definite, it's just some of our thinking. But if a rider has got their NQSs, so there's no longer the necessary, like I don't know how long it's been out there, but the trials don't need to be taken part anymore. You know, we're trying to change the thinking and remove those barriers and go, okay, if you've got a rider and they've got the NQSs and they're up to it, send them. I'd love to see 10 people, 20 people. Melbourne, Nelson, West Coast, I guess they were there. So that was from their area. They had a team at Champs, get this, a team of 24. Now, they had one actual team going for the Eventing Champs title that you guys only won 2 years ago. So they had 1A1, 2 named DCs, 2 A1s, 2 marked tots. They were the top of their team, but everyone else was considered a team member. They were individual riders. They could have stepped into reserve, but they were all team members. So when they did the skip night, trust me, all 24 of them got on stage. They acted as a team. They had one coach for every 6 members. So they had 4 coaches and managers, but they effectively didn't talk about individuals or team. They were the team. The only thing is when the team got second, only 6 of them could come forward, not 24, but they were all cheering in the background. So we want to see that. We want to see more riders come forward. We want to increase the prestige, return it to what it was. If the riders are capable, let's send them.
That's pretty much what's happening with the secondary school then, isn't it? And that's why the secondary schools are so popular.
I've got a daughter. She's 24, nearly 25. She's never been able to go to any like Champs Week because she was in the time when we'll just take the 2 top riders from Tauranga to go to the Bay and things like that. And now we're struggling for riders. Now we're desperate for riders. Only 4 or 5 years later. So she's really excited. She's like on a young horse. She's not going to join my area. She might join Pony Club. She might not use my name. And she's like, I think I want to go to Champs Week. I've got a young horse. I want to go for that ESNZ scholarship at level 3. And it's like, why not? Let's remove the barriers. Let's get those riders there. But basically, what your structure looks like would be to you as a collective group. So I know that in some areas, you know, because you're going to decide this together, this is not a one-stop decision. This is a big decision for you guys of what you'd look like in the coming months. But if you supported it, you know, and if you stayed as a Hawke's Bay area, this is your chance to change or move or grow. You know, I think collectively it would bring you together stronger and go, we all agreed to this. We agreed. And if someone said, no, I actually don't agree, then you could actually also kind of have Hawke's Bay. I don't want to point any fingers but I could just say, you know, a couple of you could go, oh, we're actually going to go this way, or we're going to go this way. And there's nothing stopping that. Now, if in this situation, the area's gone and you've got Heretaunga and the club, what are you going to do with the assets? What are you going to do if you've got any assets? We imagine that NZPCA, they would distribute downwards. You guys get to state what kind of system. I've had so many different suggestions. I've had one area say, we're going to take the average membership over our clubs over the last 10 years and then base it on those numbers and move it downwards that way. Another's just gone, well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 clubs, and they've all fed in. We're just splitting it 9 ways because that shows the historic importance. And then we've got all of these complicated systems. You also get to decide if there was an asset redistribution, how it would look. We're just here to discuss the process and to basically facilitate the process. So if you were having a club meeting and you wanted an independent facilitator, we could come in and go, what are you thinking? Have you thought about that? Does that work? Does that work? Does that work? Yeah. So that you might even think of other models. That's just me seriously sitting here looking at you playing. But the problem is I don't know. I know where Gisborne is and Wairoa is and Dannevirke is. Central Hawke's Bay, where are you actually based?
I can tell you. Centre of the world. Central Hawke's Bay are basically halfway. We're south of Hastings, really.
Yeah.
Waipukurau.
Oh, you're Waipukurau, yeah.
Is the wee town.
I wanted to move there a few years ago. Oh, no one was keen. My husband wasn't keen.
Honestly, it's so glamorous. It's gorgeous. Amazing.
Yeah, I wanted to move there. Okay, so, you know, I can't remember what I was saying now, but, you know, that's the type of thing. You might go, how can we split? What can we do? All of those things. Yeah. So your
Lizzie,
chance.
sorry, I have a question. question. It's Kim Bull here.
Yep.
When you say we decide, do you mean like us sitting in the branches? Is each branch will get to vote, or will it be like, say, our governing area and
No.
Hiratonga that decide? Like,
No,
'cause,
no.
you know,
So I believe that in a correct democratic process that you would have a meeting and try and get everyone along, and maybe before that go back to your clubs and branches, as a branch, go back and go, hey, what are we keen to do? What do we want to do? So as your branch go, what do we want to do? What do we think is a good idea? Have that have that representation at the Hiratonga meeting, or have that representation at Dannevirke meeting, have that representation at the Central Hawke's Bay meeting. And I'm sure that you'll come up with pretty similar ideas of having discussions. But, you know, I know, and I was the same. The first year I came back from overseas, I went to Pony Club 5 times. I got to the AGM and I was upset. My daughter didn't get a certificate. She probably didn't deserve one. Instead of being angry and not being engaged, I said, well, actually, the only person who I can be angry is at myself. So I had to be engaged. And I know it's really hard getting those brand new mums and dads in who actually don't even realise above them that there's a club. And then definitely don't know that above them there's an area. And then there's this body called NZPCA that takes $55 of their riding membership. And what do? So it's really hard when they're starting out the journey to get them to move up and understand that. And maybe hopefully these slides will help to get that voice. But it's if you don't have voice, then it will be the ones around the table when you make your decision and sit there and have this on your agenda and go, if the restructured 3-layer comes in, you will have to have this conversation and go, what are we going to do?
And then so at the AGM voting, is that excuse my ignorance, area and then Hiratonga?
Okay,
would vote?
so
yeah.
at the AGM, the NZPCA AGM, your area gets 1 vote. So your area has to get feedback from Central Hawke's Bay, Dannevirke, Hiratonga, Wairoa and Gisborne of how to vote. So Kathy can't just go and vote how she wants. She actually has to have your feedback. Hey, Kathy, I know that you do all the time. So if there was 3 that said yes and 2 that said no, it's a yes. If it was 3 that said no and 2 that said yes, it's a no. So that's how Kathy votes here. What you guys, so Central Hawke's Bay, you need to decide what you're going to do. For Hiratonga, there's 1 more layer into it because they have to take into account what their branches are going to say. So if all of them say no, Hiratonga would be a no. If the majority said yes, Hiratonga has to be a yes. So it's voting on the base of your members. So you do need to have the discussion right now, not of what it definitely is going to look like, but the removing of that layer. So I couldn't wait for that for our board meeting. So that's why I'm asking you guys, if you're sitting here going, yeah, I'm keen for this, the exit survey that you can find on the page, I need you to go in and go, yes, or no, or I don't know, because that will, your membership directly relates to how your branch or your club, therefore your area will vote, because you do have a voice.
And that is why at the recent, we've spoken about it twice, 3 times since this has been on the table area. It's really important that you either try and get someone to go to conference, or you register for electronic voting, or you organise for someone to do the voting as you have reflected from your meetings at conference.
There's no proxy vote though at
no proxy this year. Okay.
There's no proxy in the Constitution. You can't proxy vote at our AGM ever.
Okay,
not constitutionally, cool. but there's electronic. But we'll go to that because I've got lots to say about conference, because I'm going to make it so cool for you. I'm not sure if it was Sue or Bridie, so let's go, Sue.
Thanks, Lizzie. Look, I just going back a step, you mentioning about putting your hand up if you want to be part of that change. And I just want to point out that it's interesting to note how many of our Hawke's Bay area members don't have children riding at Pony Club. That there's a lot of us that we've got adult children, but we're still giving back to Pony Club. And I think it's really important that some of our newer members get to understand how Pony Club works and be a part of the change. So just putting my 50 cents worth into to take that back to the branches.
Absolutely. And I know that I've been a younger member, and now I'd be considered an old member if I was in a club, but I'm no longer in a club or a branch. And it's really hard, that upskilling, and I appreciate the work and that you do. And you can only vote, you know, if people don't come along and you don't get their vote, then you have to discount it. So, you know, let's say I'm just pulling a name, but let's say, because I know you're here, Sue, but if Gisborne didn't, if Wairoa didn't vote, then Kathy has one less vote to determine what she's going to vote, and she just goes, oh, well, you know, it's a hard one. But then in that situation, there can't be any complaints. Like when I was sitting there, I couldn't complain because I didn't help. I didn't try. So that has always been my motto, unfortunately. I volunteer at everything now, so I can't complain. So I'm allowed to complain. Briley.
So looking at both of those flow charts there, and you've got Hawke's Bay as an admin layer, what does an administration layer look like? Like, how many people would normally be involved in that? Have you done that already? Sorry.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't really tell me what.
It's exactly the same. So constitutionally, it would be an incorporated layer. So so it's an incorporated layer. So the incorporated layer is a minimum, same membership as I think it's 15 or something. So, but remembering, you already get the 15 because that incorporated layer, of course, you're all members. So Hiratonga is always going to have more than 15 because every single member inside of here, over here, is part of their 15. These guys, they're part of the Hawke's Bay 15. Everyone is already part of the Hawke's Bay 15, but you will still need to have, it talks about officers, but you're still going to have enough officers. So here, each of these would need to have at least 1 or 2 delegates that would go just exactly the same as you do now to the Hawke's Bay meeting. So Central Hawke's Bay would still have delegates to Hawke's Bay area. Dannevirke same, Hiratonga same, Wairoa same, Gisborne same. What would happen here? So nothing is really going to change for Central Hawke's Bay, Dannevirke, Wairoa and Gisborne. You're still going to have your own committee and then have to have someone go to Hawke's Bay. The big change here is potentially for Hiratonga, where Flaxmere won't potentially have to have someone going to the Hiratonga meeting and the Hawke's Bay meeting. They wouldn't have to go 1, 2, 3 meetings. So it's removing that layer. You guys are a little bit different. You are probably my biggest area just of clubs. You've only got 1 club with branches. So Central Hawke's Bay, Dannevirke, Wairoa, Gisborne, you know, you've only got the 2 layers where you are and 1 above. Yeah. Does that kind of clarify that?
So basically, for them, there's not a lot of change, is there? If area or a cluster group was there, the big change here sits with Hiratonga and how those 5 branches are going to operate or work.
Yeah.
Either within or without Hiratonga being there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly right. So that would just take that layer out. So you guys might actually go, no, we don't support the change because it's not a big change for you. Or you might go, actually, we do support the change because, but that's completely up to you because, yeah.
Well, also Wairoa or Gisborne or CHB or Dannevirke could choose to go to another cluster group, couldn't they? They could.
Oh, absolutely.
Define the area.
Dannevirke could go, oh, yay, we're so much closer now to Wairarapa, Wellington, or we're so much closer. I don't know if the new road affects you, and we're going to go to Manawatu West Coast, because it would affect you, wouldn't it, that new road?
Oh,
maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know, but that's the thing. You guys can go, okay, we're in the wrong zone. That's definitely what's happening in the Auckland, Franklin, Thames Valley area. It's like and even my area, Katikati, which is Bay of Plenty, but you know it's right at the end of Western Bay of Plenty. I've heard rumours that they want to go to Franklin, Thames Valley, and it's like, okay, why not? Where in the past it would have been, no, you can't do that, but now it's like, why not? So there might not be much of a change, but it's also the time to go, are we in the right zone? Are we where we need to be? Wairoa and Gisborne might go, actually, we want to become, be back into our, was it black that they used to wear?
Gisborne used to be black.
Yeah, they used to be black because I remember that. I don't know, but that's up to you guys. It's like those decisions and those discussions. Yeah.
So just putting it out there, if Hawke's Bay, if we decided that to retain Hawke's Bay as the second layer, is there the opportunity to change the name, so to bring in Tairāwhiti?
Absolutely.
So because I mean Wairoa is part of Hawke's Bay, but Gisborne is definitely not part of Hawke's Bay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Ashburton, South Canterbury, North Otago, I think they want to be now called Aoraki, which is the Māori name of the mountain or something. So that they've already discussed it, that they've had a few meetings, and they're adamant that they're going to keep their, but they don't have they're a bit, they have a lot of clubs, but then a lot of their branches are going to merge because they're tiny. So they're going to be reducing their numbers to become bigger, where you're all quite reasonably sized. But, you know, we've got areas in the country that might only have 5 and 4, 9. They know they're not going to continue. But we also do realise that you go up and down. But the problem is, when we go to April next year, you've got to be at a solid number because you've got to have a meeting, you've got to be signed off, you've got to comply with what's in the Incorporated Society Act, and that is a certain number. I've got, sorry, I can't read it. Is it?
What is that number? Do you know?
15.
Okay.
So like we said.
Lizzie, going on, you saying earlier on about the numbers, and you didn't necessarily quantify, are the numbers likely to change in the Constitution, or is the 15 to remain?
The 15 will remain, sorry. Yeah, so the 15 is my understanding that the 15 is going to be remaining, and it will be stated 15 must remain, of which 8 are adults, and the difference between 7 must be youth members under the age of 25. We're going to be very clear about the youth members, or it might even say 15 members, of which 7 must be adults.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lizzie, Sarah here. Does that adult membership include life members?
Yes, your adult membership here does include your life members because they pay the NZPCA levy. So if anyone who pays the NZPCA levy is here, so this does not include your technical members. Just aside there, you know, your coaches, they don't have to be members because at your rallies and your rallies, they're under our insurance. But if they come and do their own clinic, they are not covered by our insurance. If they need to sign off cards, like a head coach must be a member because it's an executive position. If they're going to sign off cards and things like that, the only way we can do that is if they're a member. But I do know quite a few areas do, or clubs and branches do put their coaches on and pay their $20 membership because, you know, obviously boosts their numbers slightly. So I've got one hand up. So is it
Ingrid?
Yeah, okay, Ingrid.
No, I was just going to ask, you said before that you're going to distribute the slides. Will they be going to everybody that's here, or will they just be going to Hiratonga, or?
They're going to, they will be going to everyone that's here, but also everyone on the database that's, so when I sent out the invitation to Hawke's Bay, that was based on the database at that day for Hawke's Bay. So if there are changes, you need to go and do them, because a download like that does take me a lot of time because I've got to go through. So if you've got one or two changes, email me and I'll do them for you, because then I can update my documents because I have a separate doc. But, you know, as I said, we're only as good as the emails we've got on file. And if you are in a position, please check that you're in the position. Also, little note, if you're in a position, you need to be financial. You need to be a financial member to be holding a position. So if you haven't and it's lapsed, we can send you a renewal, or we can check for you, because it does happen, because sometimes it goes to spam and things like that. Yes, Tony.
Okay.
I'm just going back to that next slide where we had Hiratonga, and then we had a cluster for Warrell Gisborne and another cluster for Dannevirke and CHB. Those people that are here now from those areas, would they consider that as an option? Because for us, that would be a way for us to keep Hiratonga as a name, as a, you know, as a layer.
Great question.
So what, Sue, what do you think, and you guys down in CHB, what do you think about that?
Oh, I don't want to give comment without talking to the rest of my team. My view might be different from the others. Sorry. We were an area, obviously, we've only, in the grand scale of things, only just really combined with Hawke's Bay. At that time, we didn't have a huge amount of, we had no interaction, you know, the two clubs had no interaction apart from coming together for the AGM each year. And, you know, in my time, obviously earlier time, so I'm talking about, you know, 25 years plus ago, they did. But, yeah, I guess, and also Pony Club is really cyclic too. You know, you get more members in, you know, in some years than others. So, yeah, but I wouldn't want to pass comment too much.
Can I speak on behalf of CHB? Gretchen? Yeah. I'm very new to Pony Club. I'm still getting my head around it. When I look at that geographically, that makes sense. You know, Dannevirke, one of our main grounds, Takapau is not that far. It's only sort of 20 minutes or so from Dannevirke Township. Geographically, that makes sense. I just haven't got my head around how much administrative work is needed at that cluster hub level, that next layer up, because we are both two very little clubs, and who are already, you know, like everyone, struggling for to find people to volunteers to do the workload as it is, and I just don't know how much work that admin layer does, and would we be able to do it within our two clubs, or do you need more people? That would be my question.
Can I answer to that one, because that's probably what's going around in my head. When you look at the scenario that you've got there, suggesting that your cluster is your administrative level, and if you were to look at that next layer down as venues, you really are bringing your administration level together and lessening the number of people that you need to help run all of these branches, clubs, areas, all in one.
You could also look at it that Central Hawke's Bay runs like they currently do, but the cluster is more administrative, 3 meetings a year. How are you going? Like, I don't know, Kathy, you're probably the most experienced in the area vibe. Losing the area and distributing that to the clusters, what would you see as being the workload and the roles, and Briley, because you're part of it, that they would have to do?
Once again, it's not really definitive as to what the administration would be. I see in one aspect it would be more work for both Central and Dannevirke who perhaps don't do as much as some of the other clubs over the years, but that changes, and that, as Sue said, that is very cyclonic, depending on the number of people you have there. My opinion would be, if you were going to have a cluster or a group, I think that all those clubs would need to be under that one because of the workload. I imagine it being what it is, maybe not quite so much, or maybe similar to what we have now, I would think you'd need all those in that area under the one umbrella. But as whatever that cluster hasn't been defined as to the workload, that's very hard to actually work out.
So
I know that sounds very indefinitive, but
yeah. So basically it's a merge between the areas and the clubs, isn't it? So it would look at being the intermediary. There would be, if you wanted to run some training camps, or if you wanted to run some talent pathways or inter-club events, you no longer have area trials. You're not necessarily having to run championship weeks, because we need to look at that anyway, the structure of championship weeks in your next year. So I think that's still an unknown, isn't it? It's kind of the merge of what it would be as an area and what it is being the higher level club, but they're already operating as clubs, so it could be quite minimal, but it's also that acting as intermediary, but offering that committee members to share governance and strengthen the club administration. So it's kind of that the mentor, the guidance as such.
Which is most probably not a lot different from what we've got with area now. We do have normally a monthly area meeting, and we share what everyone's doing and that sort of thing. And I do believe that Zoom has actually brought us most probably closer together in some aspects, because we get a bigger attendance on our Zooms than we do if we have to do face-to-face, and that is simply because of the travel distance. I don't know, has anyone else got a comment who's on area?
Yeah, me. Oh, sorry, Gretchen, you've got your hand up. Did you want to go first? I'll put my hand up too.
No, sorry, that was me putting my hand up for what I just answered. So I don't know how do I put my hand down?
Right. So yeah, it's really hard to get my head around the admin layer. Can you go back to the slide, Lizzie, that has the clusters on it? So for instance, if you look at potentially the top one, where you've got NZPCA and then you've got Cluster Hub, Hiratonga. So Hiratonga would still need a DC, the president. Kathy, are you president? I get that confused. And then you need the secretary and your treasurer.
You don't have to have a president for a club. You must have a DC. A president is something that you decide upon.
Okay, so you would still need a treasurer, secretary, DC.
The treasurer and secretary can be the only shared role. So you need a DC, a secretary, a treasurer, or that can be a shared role. A head coach. Help me out. You need so many committee members and things like that. So, but you need
full committee. So it's a full committee really at the Hiratonga and the Cluster Hub. Then if and then if we go down to say Marae-Kākehau, which is under that Hiratonga one, I'm still talking in the top flowchart. Marae-Kākehau, they would still need their president, head coach, secretary, treasurer, and committee. Okay. So what we're taking away there.
Yeah, that's
so all of those. So then what we're taking away is the Hawke's Bay, which would be Kathy and I and matches, for instance, treasurer. Have we got a head coach? No, we don't have a head
So
coach.
it doesn't,
And our delegates.
coaching coordinator. So under this cluster model for Hiratonga, it doesn't take anything away
Right.
at all. But you wanted to stay as you were traditionally. The model that takes something away is this model here, where you've got your branch with your president, but now you'd be the president would need to be called DC or president to sign things off, and then a delegate to the Hawke's Bay. But you all need to go to the Hawke's Bay to make that committee. So no matter wherever you're sitting, you've got to have one layer above that club level. So that's why it looks like this. So there you go, one level above, one level above. So actually, no, I might be wrong here, because Hiratonga is the cluster, so it's the same operational roles that would be currently in the area. So whatever, so this is, instead of, you consider this as the same layer as the area layer. These guys are the DCs. This is the administrative higher layer. So Hiratonga is in a way replacing the area. This cluster hub is replacing the area. So club, area, but it's not an area. That's why it's called a cluster or a hub.
Thanks. Oh, a few more hands.
Jessica.
Hi, thanks. So Jess Crenswick, I'm at Flaxmere Pony Club. So my question is, at the moment, Hiratonga have a head coach and they have started running senior rallies. Yep. And, you know, when we talk about what's best for our riders, I have seen such huge benefit for the older riders and the attraction back to Pony Club for those older riders, because they're getting together at that level. So where would that happen in the new model?
So in that layer, that would be the responsibility of Hawke's Bay, or you can also say that any of these could say, I'm going to run a senior clinic for riders. We're going to be responsible this year, because as a coordinator you don't need a committee to actually do those coordination roles, and Havelock North is going to run senior rallies this year. Or a person can just be outside of it and have the permission of all of these people and go, let's run senior rallies. So, you know, you don't have to have an event coordinator. Doesn't need to be it's not a position on the committee, so it could be fluid. It could be a Hawke's Bay coordinator sitting out here, or it could be something like that. So but that the senior rallies could either be within here, or it could be in the Hawke's Bay, or sitting fluidly over here and going, okay, so there's nothing stopping me being in Tauranga to go to Te Puke, who's a different club, or Taupo, and go, hey, we want to do senior rallies. We're doing one, let's share.
And I guess you could put, for Meg's the head coach of Hiratonga, you could probably put her into the Hawke's Bay one to do that same role. Would that be right?
Well, that would be what, because you've got to have a coaching coordinator. You'd have a coaching coordinator at the Hawke's Bay anyway. So you could say, hey, Meg, would you do that role? And she'd be coordinating all of them and offering it to all. Or as I said, she could be the head coach of one of these branches, or she could be sitting out here in a non-executive role going, okay, Meg, are you happy to continue with this and this and this? So yeah, we'd still expect to offer those opportunities, but instead of it just being club, it might be at the Hawke's Bay. And the same with the inter-club events. There's nothing stopping, if you looked like that you could still have your inter-club events. You just might want to open them wider, but there's nothing stopping for tradition that Flaxmere is going to invite Havelock North, Marakaho, Otani and Paraiti Puketapu to the yearly Shore Challenge trophy, and hold it here this time, hold it here the next year, hold it here, hold it here, hold it here. But they're the ins and outs that, you know, once you've decided on your structure, it will all flow on nicely when you're sitting there going, oh, how can we do this? How can we do that? What's the first thing? I know this is why we're having these meetings, is to look and go, could we operate under three tiers? So 1, 2, 3 without the fourth tier, or in this situation, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4th, and there are venues, but then, or you're looking at the clusters. It depends how much you want to keep Heretaunga as that overwhelming club, or, you know, or does historically was one of these Heretaunga first and foremost, and then the others came out of it. Like, what was the history in Heretaunga? Was it called Heretaunga and then it grew branches? Is that how it happened? I don't know. It's like you're going back and explaining it that. So Heretaunga is actually a club in its own right. So you could even break off into here and go, actually, Heretaunga was a club in its own right, and Heretaunga slits in here, and you go Central Hawke's Bay, Dannyver, Flaxmere, Havelock, Heretaunga, Marikoko. I don't know, you might insert another club in there for that historical, because that might have been how it was established. But I don't know, you've got the richest history in the country and you want to hold on to it, so that's important. So whatever structure does that for you.
So Heretaunga was the original club or branch or whatever you want to call it, was the original pony club development structure, and the branches came following that, because they used to have head coaches go around to the different branches of it and all coach at the different branches. And then they individually had their own coaches.
That would kind of, can you flick to the other screen, please, Lizzie, where this one here, not the one where Heretaunga stays, but we get venues.
Oh, yeah. This one here, but it's not quite right. So I could make it right for you. Here we go.
That's okay. But this one here, that would almost, if we stuck with Heretaunga and made some of our smaller clubs to lighten the burden on them into venues, then it would kind of almost be like going back into history. Like, you know, walking backwards in front of, you know, walking into the future from the past, you know, that lovely proverb, but it could make a lot of sense. That would help out probably the administrative layers for our smaller clubs, because I know that by the time I am trying to organise stuff for, you know, our riders, it's just as much work to organise stuff for 9 as it is for 90, to be perfectly honest, when you're trying to offer different opportunities. And I know that because I used to run ski teams as well. And so in actual fact for us, the burden is at our own club level, and then say I'm at Heretaunga and then I'm at Hawke's Bay as well. Cutting out, say, Heretaunga, for Heretaunga meetings for me would be amazing. But if I cut out my own club because I was just part of Heretaunga, that also has enormous benefits that I can see already for lowering my workload from a purely selfish point of view.
No, but that has been the big thing, and you know, that has been the big thing, is about lowering that workload. Sorry, it's going to get to the right slide now. Then I finally did it. So that is what some areas have definitely done. They've retained the area, and then they've got that club, and then underneath you've got the venue, like the traditional Kathy said, and the people went round. So I'll just get there because I just updated it.
Yeah.
Sarah, how does that resolve your grounds though? You still need to be an incorporated society for grounds. So
do you?
For your council grounds for the lease?
We would have to figure that. Well, we're still part of Heretaunga. We're a branch of Heretaunga. So in actual fact, Heretaunga would still retain the lease on the grounds and would still own the cross country. And I feel like the Battle Hill and the McLaren's Falls examples are quite pertinent for the ownership of the cross country at the Papakura Domain. And, you know, if that meant that, say, if I only had to run one rally per month because the coach at Otane or Marae Kākaho, like if I only had to do every third one, that would free me up to be able to take my own kids to competitions, because at the moment I feel obligated to not take them to competitions because we've got a rally scheduled, and if I'm not available to coach, then the other kids miss out. But if I knew that, say, the head coach of Marae Kakoho was going to host the next rally, and then the head coach of Otani was going to do the next, well, maybe not every member would make it across, but you would still have enough that would.
And that is exactly what's happened in South Otago. They've done this, so they've got South Otago, they've got Balclutha, Clinton, and I want to say O something. I keep on forgetting its name. And they don't have rallies they don't have rallies weekly, or they don't have one rally in each Owaka. They might have around the first rally at Marae Kakoho, and then the next rally might be at Flaxmere, and then the next rally is at Otani, but they're not necessarily weekly, but also the pool of instructors is so much bigger.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of burden away. I mean, the planning and preparation is quite significant to try and get all these kids through their exams, and, you know, making sure that they're all making progress and so on and so forth. So, and then quite often, especially if you're in a smaller club, you're finding yourself doing secretarial duties or whatever else as well. And so it's really appealing that if I only had to do that once a month in my area.
Yeah, because, you know, the Havelock North people would still, you know, you'd still expect that they would be the ones, if that's where they're closest, they'd be the ones helping maintain those grounds. But you've only got one committee for all of those 5 venues. So that whole numbers up there, 81, 47, 16, 20. Oh, so let's look at the adults, because they're the ones that hold positions. 47, 25, 8, 13, and 13. And you have got 3 there that are, you know, that are getting slightly on the lower side, but then that's a bigger, forceful committee. Imagine it.
I like that idea.
If you took that one step further, Lizzie, and turned around and said the venues, like you became, Gisborne Wairoa became a club and their venues were Gisborne Wairoa. Central Hawke's Bay Dannevirke became Southern Hawke's Bay and their venues became Waipakarau Dannevirke.
Yeah.
So you're in effect saying that your administrative level lessons again become simpler. How does that affect the financial status of everyone?
So what would happen here, so if these 4, the ones on the screen for Hiratonga, were all to merge, and then so they would send all their finances would go up into Hiratonga, because that's going to be the one that's got the incorporated society. Their assets potentially stay on the grounds, because you want to keep the jumps on the grounds where they are. But Hiratonga's got one treasurer, one lot of banking. Is that what you know? And if you operate grazing, then the grazing would go into a different part as well. But because it's merging upwards, the money would merge upwards. The assets would retain to Hiratonga, but you'd have a memorandum of understanding and say that the assets on the grounds of Otani stay on the grounds of Otani, while Otani is a venue.
And then overall, you become a financial committee who's looking to do the best by all of its members at all of its venues.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the purpose of Pony Club. So that's already covered in that purpose of Pony Club, that you're doing it for the benefit of the youth members.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know who was next, so just someone go.
Moving on from that point, Wairoa Pony Club, we used to have 3 branches, and or actually 4, but 3 more recently, and we merged. The major, I guess, resistance was their own money. And I can talk later to the different clubs if you want about how we managed that, so everyone felt valued. But I won't go into it now. But
I absolutely get that from people, that it's like it's our own money, but it's like actually it's historical money, because the clubs have been built on historically. Yeah.
What I did, well, just very quickly, what I did, because I was I was secretary of the club at the time and secretary of our New Haka branch. And what we did is we transferred their money over into the club accounts. We opened new club accounts, and we called those, so like New Haka branch had 2 accounts, and I called them New Haka working account, New Haka savings account under the club's branches. So the club had like 6 different accounts, but it just kept everybody, like, they felt valued. And then in time we merged because they all saw the benefit, but it was just getting them over that hoop, and it worked really well. We just had to make them feel valued, and and they saw the benefit of joining together. And we still have the use of the New Haka grounds when we go out there. But my question was actually around with the club structure regarding the roles of DC and president, and is that something that is required moving forward to have your DC and president?
That's part. I assume that they will stay the same way as they currently are. So when I was DC of Tauranga, I didn't have a president because in the roles and in the Constitution, it states that if you don't have to have a president, it's of a club. It's what's the word? You elect to have it. So I haven't heard that we're going to change it. Is the only way I can answer it. So it's sorry, I haven't got a complete answer, but I haven't heard that we're changing it, so I assume it would remain the same. DC, I can imagine, would have to still be there because so many of our things are signed off by the DC. But if there's something in the Constitution that you're not beyond the structure, but about the DCs or voting or the disputes resolution or the proposal to no longer have a president of New Zealand Pony Club, that's where that feedback needs to come into. Sarah.
Just 2 quick questions. One, under the structure that you've just, it doesn't really affect Gisborne, but my question would be, how would you'd have to have something where those grounds are maintained, and who's going forward to pay for that? Because I can see that being, grounds are in all streaks and walks of life at different. Some are amazing, some are, real grassroots. So that would definitely have to be worked out under that structure. And 2, for us, what happens if in our area there's another pony club wanting to be formed, say up the coast? We used to have Tolaga Bay, and what happens if they then wanted to form a new pony club? So where does that fit in under this new?
So currently, to form a new pony club, needs to have all the pony clubs around it and within the area agree, and it's got to have very solid reasons. So in my time here, I've had 2 new pony clubs. One was formed because Ngā Tawa stopped being a pony club because they could no longer constitutionally, as a boarding school, get enough parents to come on and be the committee. So they decided they didn't want to be a pony club and they wanted to focus on school. So because there was a need, a new pony club in that area got formed, and everyone within that area was absolutely supportive. Last year I had a group of parents that had an argument with another group of parents, and they wanted to form a breakaway club, and it was going to be 5 minutes away, and it was decided that they were going to and there was another pony club only 15 minutes away, and it was decided that they were declined because the groups around them said, we've got plenty of pony clubs beside us, we're not full, there's no need for it. And so we declined it, but based on what the areas and the club said around it. So that is how a new pony club is formed. It just can't go, I want to be a pony club. Yeah, here you go. So that would definitely be remaining that you'd have an input if someone came along. You know, if there's a whole new, you had a massive development and Tolaka Bay became massive and huge in the next resort town and pony clubs galore and lots of pony clubs, you might be going, absolutely, let's do it, but you would be consulted. Your first question, I forgot what it was. Oh, grounds. So if Hiratonga was to become the club and they've got grounds, there would be a memorandum of understanding that the grounds would be kept in the standard of what they are today. And of course, you'd have to put maybe some money into one side in your budget. Like I do a budget each year and I just can't go willy-nilly and go, oh yeah, I'm going to go and do this. I have to budget. So put a reasonable amount for grounds and maintenance and put the money beside it. So you'd have to do some financial planning is my belief. Are there any more questions on this slide? Oh, yes, Helen, and then Gretchen, and then we'll Helen, and we'll go to the next slides.
Hi, so at the moment I organise the rallies for Flaxmere, which like we've got a big membership, so they can be enormous. How, if we all become, like if all the branches merge into Hiratonga, how does organising a rally for potentially over 100 kids, how does that actually like work?
So you might have to.
I wouldn't know all the children personally. I wouldn't know their ponies. I wouldn't know who, you know, like what ability everyone is or where you could push them to. All those kind of little.
It becomes unmanageable.
So the number one, that they could go to any rallies at any of those venues. Maybe like you guys are the experts on the ground here. I'm not sure if you'd get everyone to all of one rallies. You might get them occasionally. You'd have to put out indications of who's coming to the rallies, a bit like if Hiratonga did a camp now or a rally. You do that. You talk to the people that know. You'd probably have a coaching team. I'm only thinking of suggestions. You guys are the experts. I can coach, but I'm not a coach. I choose not to coach because I used to annoy me going from school to a rally. But I'm sure there'd be people that would come up with suggestions. Has anyone got some suggestions about that?
I have. I think we've done it before because we did used to have quite big rallies members in the past. And we used to have one person in charge of each certificate level. So you did get to know your kids and you were in charge of that certificate.
Could you cap the numbers of the rally? We're allowed to do that, aren't we? Like, so,
Yeah,
so
you're allowed
only
to do
30
that.
regos first in, first serve sort of thing?
You're allowed to do that because it's about health and safety. So
Yep.
you're allowed to do that. As a coach, that's one of the reasons I stopped coaching. I did not like going to the rally and suddenly being told, this is your group, and they need to do this. I'm a planner. I wanted to know that my riders that I was going to get, and I wanted to have the same riders next week and the next week and the next week and the next week to build on with them. So, but you guys have your way of doing things, and this is where the open discussion, and I love the idea of a coaching team comes up, because, you're trying to do the best for the riders, but remembering that the riders are paying, compared to private coaching, it's really affordable. Pony Club is an affordable option.
Yeah.
Helen.
I think she's still got her hand up.
Okay. Any more questions on this page, or can I just jump out to the final two pages, and then if people need to go, and we can always pick this up again as well. So I hope you've got that this is not the final decision. This is definitely the consultation. So the ideas. So what's your role in this is to share with the clubs, branches and areas. Come back and ask questions. I love it just sitting here tonight listening to you, from something at the start then became an idea, and then it moved again and it evolved. And this is only, the discussions on if we were restructuring. Discuss openly with your community. please submit your feedback to the NZPCA site by the end of May. I'm just going to stop sharing because I'm just going to go to the other page. Oh, no, sorry, not stop sharing, stop that one. So basically, if you followed the site, if you come to the Constitution update page, we're trying to make this a one-stop shop. So in here are all the meetings for the areas. Your recording will be here tonight or tomorrow morning or tomorrow sometime because I'm going to Wellington in the morning. But you can come to any of these meetings. So if you're confused tonight, come back to all of these. But we do invite you to take the survey when you're ready. And this survey, you don't have to put your name. It's not required. You don't have to put your email. The only thing that you must put is what area you're from, because then it just gives us an indication of how your area is feeling. Your role, and do you support? Somewhat support, neutral, somewhat opposed, strongly opposed, not sure. So if you're not sure, come back for some other meetings, ask questions. And would you feel confident voting? So that will help us in deciding if the direction of changing the structure of Pony Club is the way to go, or if we should stay where we are. So that's there. Also, massive amount.
We filled that one in as individual members, not as representatives of our branch.
As individual members.
Okay.
As individuals, so you don't have to go and ask anyone else what they think. It's your view.
Okay.
Yeah. If you've got any questions, the answers might be in here. It's now a very long, massive document. So if you've got questions, they may be in here. You can always just email me as well, and I will direct you there, or I'll answer it for you. But like here, can Auckland area continue as it is, or must it become a cluster? It can continue as it is. The name cluster was only used to demonstrate alternative structure options. So there's lots of questions in here for you. Yesterday, we had how will voting work? What happens at the area level after the national AGM? We also had about assets. So that's a really big place to go and have a look. All the first documents. Sorry, this is still the old timeline, but you will get it in the slide pack that I send to you tomorrow. The next place that I'm going to take you really quickly is if you're considering coming to the AGM, and as Kathy said, you get to vote. Voting happens at the AGM. That's all clubs get to vote. I would prefer if you're in person. Constitutionally, it does say come to the AGM, but if you can't, I understand that. If you can't budget for it and you can't get there, or you can't get time, you need to do electronic voting. Those forms come out on the 1st of July. The conference registration is open. The notice that AGM's there. We can even help you getting with funding applications by giving you a special invite. There's a 3-day package because this year the Friday is a national forum. The Friday is normally an area forum, and only 15 area delegates are meant to speak, and one's meant they can bring along a second person to be an observer. But one thing I've noticed in this role is that we repeat Friday on Sunday, and if we don't do that, and as a DC I used to go and I wanted to know what was happening on Friday, and they'd come to Sunday and they go, oh, we discussed it on Friday. And you're like, that's not helpful to me. I wasn't at Friday because I wasn't invited. So it's a national forum. Anyone can put together a national forum item of business, any club. So those forms are all there, and they're intended to focus on rule change. They are focused on, they're non-voting, they're just items of business. So it's focusing on the rule changes and structures or any ideas that you've got. The conference is going to be practical and user-friendly, and you'll come along with lots and lots of workshop ideas and lots of key factors. And these are AGM and practical workshops. So I'm pushing that a bit because that is where the vote will be taken. But apart from that, are there any other questions? If you're not sure if I confused you completely, please contact me, make a time we can go through and look. I'm happy to have people come back and we look once again at what you would look like in your area. Happy to sit there and work through it with you again. Not a problem. So if there are no questions and you've got nothing, I thank you so much for coming along. But if you've got questions, please stay on or pop them in an email, ring me. Sorry, I'm not available tomorrow though. Don't think I'm in an ESNZ meeting with their technicals. So yeah, but I'll get back to you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lizzie, for your time.
Lindsay.
Thank you very much, Lizzie.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And I hope I haven't been too confusing. And please note that we need your feedback. And it's no matter what, you're going to get a new constitution. It will just depend if it's the current structure or a 3-tiered structure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you
Okay,
very
so-
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thanks, Lizzie.
Thank you, Tony. Nice to meet you.
Thanks, Lizzie. Bye.
See you later. Bye.